friends, to a new game analysis. I'm Nick Sloan. Today we're taking a look at round 4 of our early summer Swiss tournament at the Waukesha Chess Club. I'm pretty excited about this game. We'll talk about the results of the whole tournament after this game analysis. But this particular game, I was white. I employed the London system, and my opponent was roughly 992. I'd never played this person before, and he looked like a new player to the club. Come to find out, though, I believe he's obviously much underrated for what how he's playing, and you'll see the game. And I didn't know this in the game, but throughout the game, he was making what I thought to be actually pretty strong moves, and it was quite difficult to break through his defenses. So let's take a look at see how it goes. Obviously, the London starts with d4. He played e6. I played bishop to f4. Pretty normal, standard things like that. And then d5. And I play these first 3 moves. This is pretty standard in the London. It gives you some flexibility without bringing your pieces out right away. A lot of times you can also go knight to f3 here to begin with. Either are good. You can even sometimes bring your other knight to d2. Any of these types of move orders seems to be pretty fine. Some of them are better than others based on evaluation. But the move orders, a lot of times they transpose. And for those of you that don't know what transpose means that given whatever certain move order, you still will reach the same outcome later in the game. So I played e3, and he played bishop to d6, challenging my bishop right away. And the main move here is to drop back. Reason being, if he does take, you can take, and then you open up this file for your rook, which is really great, especially if they decide to castle kingside. You've got a really good attack having that rook open. This was the first kind of deviation that I'd ever seen. I've never seen anybody come to this particular square with their knight. Typically they come to here, to f6. I don't know the reasoning behind why he wanted to do that. We did not get a chance to actually talk about this game after because my opponent had to leave quite quickly. He did want to discuss it the next week, but we ended up not getting a chance to do that. But yeah, I did not see or understand why he made this particular move. I guess the other idea was maybe thinking of coming here or here with the idea of taking my bishop, but he always has the option to take. Or maybe he was just considering trying to defend against after taking that. I'm kind of unclear with the thinking behind this. This was kind of an odd move, and it's not something that should probably be played in this particular opening. The engine doesn't like this move all that much. I mean, it's okay, but there's far better options. I continued my development with knight to f3, which is pretty standard here. The main move here that the engine wants is to castle, but or even play b6 and then fianchetto the bishop. But he didn't do those things. He moved bishop to d7, which again is yet another interesting move. I think a good move here probably would have been a c4 or castles for him. I'm kind of unclear how he's playing this. I don't know, maybe he's just playing this to get out of book order moves. That's quite possible. People do that. They play weird move order, just developing pieces in an odd manner just to try to throw you off. But I wasn't really thrown off. I kind of just continued my normal development by getting my bishop to d3. And this is when he decides to take. And as you can see now, I've opened up my rook, which proves to be somewhat useful later in the game. And this I found because, you know, we have a threat here. If you can see it, we can take this, but it's kind of poisoned, and I don't think he actually saw this, because if I do take that, he can push this pawn up, and yes, I can take it and he can take back. I can't really take it. I'm kind of stuck until I protect this rook. So this is almost somewhat of a poisoned pawn, but he was clearly afraid of that, so he stopped me from doing any of that nonsense. But it's pretty easy to calculate that if you take here, pushing here is the best move, and I'm sure we can show it. Let's say he did some other move here and I did this. The evaluation bar should go up. It still likes it for me, so there must be a way out of this. I find that to be interesting, but that's okay. All right, maybe it's because I have the tempo. It's not that big of a deal. But he moved here, and I continued with my development. I struggle with knowing when to or not to put my knight on E3 or C3 to play the Jabava London system or not. I've just gotten so used to putting it on D2. The black bishops are off the board, so here might have been actually a pretty decent move, but I'm not sure. And then he pushed F6, obviously keeping me out of this square. I found that to be a very interesting move. I continued on with queen to E2, which still seems to be pretty okay. I'm giving myself options to castle either short or long, and I wanted to see if he was actually going to castle this way, because if he was, I was going to castle long and then line my rooks up, or get my rook up to here and then bring my other rook from over here all the way over, and have a battery kind of going. But it's just a weird series of moves. He finally develops his knight to C6, which seems to be okay. And all of this is kind of forced. I'm a little confused by this kind of structure here. These are weak pawns, and then, you know, I'm threatening coming to take here with all these types of threats. You know, his king is vulnerable now because he pushed this F pawn. So I'm honing in on this weak pawn and this weakness here for tactical shots. And then, oh, sorry, this one here, and then my queen to here. All of this kind of pointing in on the king, or coming after his rook that is going to have to be taken pretty soon. So he figured out how to take care of this by pushing the pawn. But now he's just got such a weakness on all these dark squares. And look at just all these holes in his position. So it's just a matter of repositioning my, my knight to any of these squares, and it's going to start to get really difficult for him very quickly. So I decided to solidify the position and allow for this to happen, with the idea of bringing my knight to here, my next knight up here, and then kind of homing in on some of these weak squares in his position. These were my plans, and plus we still have this. My idea now is to castle and then bring my rooks behind and just start going after the king side. That's the idea. That's what I'm thinking at this point. And I figured I can stop all of his pawn pushes by pushing F5. I'm not sure if it's the best move here. I really haven't been paying attention to how the evaluation bar is moving, or whether or not it's actually a really good move or not. But he came after my bishop, which is fine. I'm happy to trade off one of his knights for a more closed position for my bad bishop. It's really not doing anything right now. So I kind of let that happen. I did consider pushing the pawn instead of my knight, but I had some other ideas. I wanted to keep him out of pushing C5, so I figured knight to B3 was better, so that kind of got rid of my my next plan, which was to come here. But takes and takes, pretty standard. I was happy with this trade, so my next move is threatening to take his bishop or coming after this particular weak pawn after castling, and I've got a pretty decent game, I think. I'm not exactly sure why he wanted to do that. Probably to keep me out of this square, but I mean his bishop is stopping all this stuff from happening. I think better might have been like maybe h6 or castling, or maybe trying to move your knight out of the way to move your queen to castle queenside. I think those are all kind of some ideas. But he moves a6 for some reason. I don't know if he's scared of something. I think he wanted to just kind of come here and protect his... it's easily stopped. I can just move a4 if I wanted, but it's really kind of... I ignored it and kind of continued on with my plan. By getting castled, he finished going through what he wanted to do, and now he pushed his queen up to further prepare c5. So I kind of understand his plans at this point. I am preparing my knight to come to here or here. Here's ideal because this is a very weak pawn and it's now a target for me. But here in the middle of the board, I mean, it's just such influence with that knight just alone. And I can always move my queen back and then my other knight here and here, longer term plans anyways. But it looks like he wants to kind of go after my knights, which is fine. So I put my knight on an outpost attacking the bishop, forcing him to kind of do something about it, and he did, and I took back pretty swiftly, and he moved here, which I'm guessing is probably pretty decent, but there's not... I don't know why he didn't just castle. I can't get here quickly. It takes a few moves for me to load up on that, but in that time, I mean, you still even always have this. I'm not sure. I really think h5 here is probably his best move, but he moved king to f8, which I really had no idea. I didn't understand that move. Had this happened in a game online, I probably would have thought it was a misclick trying to castle, but this seems to be odd. I didn't understand this plan whatsoever. If somebody can understand this, maybe you can put some comments down below. I'm not really sure why that's a move that was considered even. I am trying to rip open the sides by pushing my pawns. And he wanted to, I guess, solidify himself here to protect this pawn a little bit more. But his pawns are already his pawn structure is super weak, so he's going to have a lot of problems. So I decided to solidify. My idea was to bring my queen here, here, and here, and then now I've got to weigh in, and he really can't do much about it. And if he decides to push here, I can take the pawn, and this was kind of bad for him. He decides to attack the pawn finally, but it's definitely too late. I'm solidifying my position with the idea of getting my rook over here and then bringing my queen to support, even if he brings his knight back here to kind of come after me, that was the move I expected, was him to just attack this right away. I was really kind of expecting that to happen. But he didn't. He took, and here I considered taking with the pawn, but I found that there were some tactics that come later. So I decided to take with the queen, expecting him to see this discovery attack on the king. And I expected him to move. But instead, he made a pretty bad move. The first move was good, and developing a rook, and I just move out of the way. But now it's a one move threat. I'm not too worried about that. And I wasn't exactly sure what he was going to do here. I expected him still to move out of the way. because he's got problems. No matter where he goes at this point, it's really tough because if he moves here, I can take, and there's a discovery on his rook. I can even come here and put him in check. When they take, I get the rook. There's all kinds of bad stuff here. He needs to get off this diagonal, but he's a little too late, and he makes probably the worst move that you could make, which is just letting me take the knight with check. So he's got check. He has to move, and then I didn't see this move, but he made it, which was a good move and a good try, but I just took it back, and at this point he resigned. Because there's nothing really to do at this point. I'm taking this, we'll trade queens, and my rook is coming in. So there's some weirdness in this game for sure. There's some things that he did do very well. That move was decent, but moving that f pawn I think was a mistake. Unless the plan was to consider only going queenside, and then having this advanced kingside pawn structure was probably going to be pretty ideal. But I feel like that's a major weakness, pushing f6 like that. And no, I didn't find this to be very good. Few moves seem kind of normal, and then he's just got more weaknesses as he pushes every pawn. So one of the things to think about when you're actually pushing pawns is what happens to your structure. Pawns can never move backwards, so your pawn moves are permanent, and can be very detrimental to your success or failure in chess, because if you look, this diagonal here, which is so vulnerable, is later in the game is the time he got into some major trouble, as you can see. So here's that same diagonal is, oh my goodness, there we go. Pretty easy to see when you see it later, but it might have been tough after over the board. I'll have to check my notes. I think we're about an hour. I did not take a whole lot of time on my moves. So at move 16, about here, I had used about 15 minutes of my clock, and he used an hour and 15 minutes. So actually, I'm sorry, that's right. So yeah, he had a lot of thinking involved. I did a lot of my thinking on his time, on his clock, so I didn't have to use a whole lot of time because he was using so much on his clock. So that's another factor. Good game though. It was interesting. I hadn't seen some of these moves before in this particular opening, so it was nice to play against some new ideas, though I don't think they were very good. As far as the particular tournament's concerned, I went 2-2. I lost against people that were high 1600s, and then I won against the people 1500 something, and then a 992. But I think he's probably 13 or 1400 ish. I don't know. You guys evaluate his play. I'm not exactly sure. Aside from this, I mean, it wasn't too bad. If you go back, yeah, he's down about 2 points, but the material's even. It's just even if you don't go quite back that far, if he didn't make c4, He's still only 2 valuations, 2 ahead. I think moving that was the king move was not good because he still had a decent game right here at move 18. I think going after, I think he probably should have castled here. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I have the engine on his best move. Like it is h5. Yeah, I mean that's the best move for him, which is what I thought was. That's exactly what I thought he was going to do. So that's kind of neat to see that I actually during the game I was thinking of some of these really good moves for them. I don't think I would consider doing this pawn break yet until I had some more things solidified, or even castled kingside now that this is kind of a lot more locked up, or at least a little bit better locked up than it had been. So but yeah, overall I did really great in the tournament. I went 2-2, 2 points out of 4, which is good. And my rating, I checked the other day, it's poised to go up 20. I think I made 20 points, so I should be on my way to 1446 or something like that. So I'm on my way. I'm on my way up the Class C ladder to reach Class B. So we're moving in the right direction. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you found this instructional and informative. Some good ideas. I'd love to hear your comments down below. Please leave some information. Maybe you saw some lines in here that maybe I didn't see, or had some other ideas based on what you saw. I'd love to hear from you. Also, I have a Discord channel. Make sure to reach out to that. And I've been streaming and playing on Twitch. So if you guys want to play against me, please reach out to my on Twitch, and maybe we'll get a game going during a live stream or something like that. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day.